Well, thank you so much, everybody. Good evening. I'm Andy Meissner, and I am pleased to be the chair of our local Mount Olive Democrats. This is a nonpartisan event, so we won't be talking any politics. Um, and Irene Sardonis is our vice chair, and so delighted to be working with Irene on these programs. This is actually the sixth in a series of town-wide events. We started last year with Chief Beecher, Chief of Police. We had an event, Mental Health during the pandemic. We had an attorney talk about tenants' rights. We have a local immunologist and global expert on vaccines talk about vaccines. We had David Alexander join us from our open space committee talking about the trails in town. Um, and tonight we're delighted to have Margaret Noon talk about the school lunch farm and CSA. You know, locally, this fits so many things that are important to us. We try to pick topics that are not just interesting, but also important to the town. And one of the areas we focus on is economic development. And who would have thought that agriculture is such an important part of our economic activity here in Mount Olive? You know, equally important is food insecurity and access to locally grown, healthy, organic food. And, you know, what better place than the school lunch farm? And on top of that, too, just, you know, the environment is of utmost concern to us as well. So environmentally friendly farming practices we'll learn about tonight as well. So all three important topics in one presentation. Irene already mentioned that we're going to be recording this, so thank you so much. We'll also be using the chat box, so feel free to use the chat box if you'd like to ask any questions. We'll plan to go no more than an hour. And so feel free to get your questions in, and we may have open dialogue towards the end. But let me also now introduce Margaret. Margaret, if you haven't read the interview or any of the information online, Margaret spent 20 years in advertising as a creative director and then went on to, I don't know if it's a left turn or a right turn, or went into cooking school and then got involved with the slow cooking movement, which really looked to connect people in restaurants with local farmers. And boy, how about that? 10 years ago, a parcel of land became available at auction. Seemed like a nice piece of property. It was located next to major highways. And that purchase grew into be what the school lunch farm is. And tonight we'll hear about Margaret's community, the CSA, which is Community Supported Agriculture Program, as well as the extensive donations Margaret makes to local food pantries and other groups. So Margaret, we are so thrilled to have met you. Special thanks to Lisa Seibelman, who has introduced us to you. Thank you, Lisa. And we're delighted that you're here to talk about your local farm and all that you do for the community. So welcome aboard. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak with everyone. I am Margaret Noon, the owner and farmer at School Lunch Farm, and I am going to switch this over to my presentation. I am not an expert on Zoom, but I'm going to try to do this without too much. Let's see, I have to find the share button, which seems to have disappeared. Help. Oh, okay, let's see. Am I sharing anything? No? Okay. I can't find the share button, guys.
All right. Scroll over to the bottom. It says share, you know, with your mouse.
Oh, okay.
The share screen. But what you click it once and then you have to click it again in order for it to take.
Okay, it did open my, okay.
Okay, but then click again. There's, oh, there you go.
Okay.
You're good. Good.
Okay, whoops, it skipped ahead, I think. It went to the end. All right, let me see if I can go back. You're gonna get to see all my slides ahead of time. All right. All right,
It's not.
bear with me. I really want to thank everyone for inviting me into their home, because with Zoom now, you literally, you know, end up in someone's home, which also could also now be their workplace, because we know a lot of people are working from home now. So, you know what, I can't see my notes. Irene?
Yeah. Are you in full screen? Like if you escape,
Okay,
you're going to go to your notes, I think. There. So now can you see your notes? But we're also seeing your notes.
okay.
All right. I mean, you know,
Presenter view,
yeah.
is that better?
Yeah.
You see my notes?
No, I don't see your notes. Do you see your notes? Though?
I do.
Good. That's good.
All right, does this look okay for everybody? Hopefully,
Good.
okay,
Yes.
all
Yes.
right. All right, anyway, thank you again for welcoming me in your homes. And basically the end of the presentation is the most important part. That's where you ask me questions. And I do really enjoy answering people's questions. So anything about farming, the CSA, my farm, I'd love to answer those questions. So speaking of questions, there's two questions that people like to ask me. How did you get into farming? And do you make any money? So I do not like the second question. And I don't mind answering the first one, though there is not a day of the year that I do not ask, you know, I'm asked that question a lot, and I understand why. So happy to answer it. So let me see, how do I move through my slides? Okay, I guess I'll do that. Okay. Sorry, bear with me, I'm new to all of this. So if I was going to write a book, it would be called From Pharma to Farming. So as Andy said, I ended up in the pharmaceutical advertising industry kind of accidentally. I went to art school, got a degree, ready to take on the art world of New York City. And I was referred to a creative director who hired me as his assistant in a pharmaceutical agency. Never heard of pharmaceutical marketing before, but ended up spending 20 years. Really enjoyed the scope of being creative. And, you know, so art is one of my passions, but also another passion that I've always had is cooking. So in 2000, I decided to take a big leap and go to cooking school. I attended the French Culinary Institute in Soho, got a degree. I was a private chef and a pastry chef for 2 years, kind of wandered back into advertising for a while. While I was in cooking school, though, I heard of the slow food movement, which is a grassroots movement that started in Bra, Italy, by a guy named, gosh, I'm forgetting his name, but Carl, I forgot the last name, sorry, I should know that. And it kind of captured 3 different things. So their slogan is good, clean, and fair food. Good food is about the best flavor, the best varieties, the way it's grown, so that it's nutritionally great, but also it tastes wonderful. And, you know, Italy is known for its food. And clean, that is grown in an environmentally friendly way. And I have to say, I was a nerd in high school, and I was running the Environmental Action Club. So just so you know a little of my history. So that resonated with me. And then fair. Fair is different things. It's about food insecurity, that everyone should have access to this wonderful food. And also those who work in the field should be paid a fair wage. So Slow Food is a global organization. They really promote all kinds of different heirloom varieties in countries, you know, everywhere. And they do like a big meeting every 2 years in Italy called Salone di Gusto and Terra Madre. And they're like the mecca for people like me who, you know, want to know what everyone's doing globally to create better food. And also it's about preserving the heritage of food. So all the different, you know, ethnic foods, techniques, varieties of from animals to vegetables. It's a very exciting event to learn and see what everyone is doing globally. So that's slow food, the opposite of fast food. And so during Slow Food, I met some wonderful farmers in New Jersey. So our local Slow Food chapter was involved in a lot of different things. We did events to introduce people to local food and farmers, to restaurants that use local food. It was all about supporting each other, you know, kind of the system of farming, food, and restaurants or food businesses kind of all supporting all this together. But the other part of our chapter was about getting better food into our schools. That was a big push. So you can kind of see where the name of my farm came from. And the other thing during my tenure with Slow Food, we developed 38 school vegetable gardens. We provided grants for 38 schools. From Newark, we had a fabulous program. We worked at Maple Avenue School in Newark. That was awarded a salad bar by Michelle Obama when she had that fabulous vegetable growing program. We worked in Jersey City. One of my local CSA members was instrumental in starting the pre-K program in Jersey City. We worked with 5 pre-Ks. So now you have 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds growing their own food, which is pretty awesome. So, you know, getting kids interested in food at that age is really just the beginning of a healthy eating pattern for the rest of their lives. And I think the last school that we gave a grant to was the Tins Road School in Flanders. And this was when I started the farm. And then one of my CSA members' child joined that school and he kept that garden going. So that was really pretty awesome to get connected locally. And I'd love to be doing more of that locally, because I can basically help somebody start a school garden with very little money. And I have lots of excess seeds, so it doesn't take much. So I purchased my farm in 2011 at an auction. It was like a 2-year process. In 2010, I did not win the auction. Someone defaulted in 2011. I did get the farm. 2012 in April, we closed on the farm. And we literally started immediately because I wanted to do a CSA. And if you don't start growing by April, you know, it's not going to happen. So along with a young apprentice named Hannah, we had a 25-member CSA. And so, you know, some lovely things that happened with people that live in Mount Olive. 3 of my neighbors, Walt Allers, he is a master mechanic, and he basically repaired every single one of my implements bought at auction. So he basically touched every equipment and made it work better. He's an amazing guy. Dave Ruprecht always lended a hand. He's a retired local minister. Richard Smith, who passed away last year at 93, he repaired a lot of my smaller tools. And almost monthly, he came with a Xerox package of information about farming and things I might be interested in, just to provide me with, you know, something to learn. And, you know, they were all invested in what I was doing, and I didn't know them before I started the farm. So that's an amazing Mount Olive story. And I'm sure there's others that other people can share. In 2014, we were awarded certified organic status. So from the beginning of me having this property, we never used materials that were prohibited. So before I even bought the property, I called the organic certifier, you know, got to understand what I was supposed to do and kept in touch with them, and it helped the process along. So that's kind of how did I get to farming, and in a nutshell. So we're here also to talk about the CSA program, which stands for, as Andy said, Community Supported Agriculture. It's hard to believe, but I am celebrating my 10th season farming in Mount Olive. And we've been doing the CSA for 9 years. I took a year off because I had some surgery, but 10 years of growing on this property, 10 years of improving the soil. And we do a 16-week program. It starts in mid-June and goes through late September. and you can purchase a full or half share depending on your vegetable requirements. And it's an easy pickup in Mount Olive at the farm. So I know there's probably people listening from other locations. We also have sites in Maplewood, Morristown, NJIT, and Secaucus. So I want to talk a little bit about the NJIT site. So I met a really lovely woman. I hike a lot and I'm a member of hiking groups. Her name was Oya Turkle, and she is the dean of the business school at NJIT, and she's very committed to sustainability. And she said to me, I'd really like to have a CSA at the school. And I was like, that's great, because a lot of people say that to me. I want it in my town, I want it here, I want it there. And I'm like, I usually, okay, we'll see what happens. And then I turned around and she already had 30 people signed up. So we're doing a site. She's hired students to create their own CSA website, their own CSA newsletter. They have a location where the shares go. Some of the people are buying shares for food insecure students. One of their donors bought 2 refrigerators. So all the shares bought for the students are going in the refrigerator. All the CSA members, if they have excess food that they don't want, they will also put it in the refrigerator. So it's kind of a complete system. So we're like meeting the needs of those who can pay and those who can't. And it's really lovely. And I am like honored. She's my hero, I have to say. I'm overwhelmed by, I'm like speechless about what she's done for the farm and what she's doing for her school. So why join a CSA? CSAs are primarily smaller farms. There are some like 3,000 member CSAs, but most of them are small farms. And the model was designed to give the farmer capital up front. So you pay in advance of the season, and then the farmer has capital to buy seed, to repair their equipment, to hire employees. There's so many materials that you buy for a farm each year. It's a lot of money up front, and you're usually pulling it out of your savings because, by the end of the year, you've used up all the money that you've made. A lot of farmers, I've come to understand, get short-term loans at the beginning of the season. If they don't have a good season, they can't pay off that loan. And that is kind of a cycle that happens, and it puts a lot of small farms out of business. So I'm very grateful to the people who join the CSA, help us up front. I can also kind of move away from billing and marketing and just focus on growing the food, which is, I think, my main job. So basically, it's an agreement between myself and the customer, and it's pretty awesome. So, something about the CSA, you can get to know me. Not everybody comes to the farm. We do a pick your own at least once a season. We're probably going to do more this year. A lot of people seem to be interested in this year in volunteering. So one of my CSA members has already set up Sign Up Genius. We're doing volunteering Friday afternoons and Saturday mornings. And it's going to be much more structured than it was in the past. And we had a great Saturday volunteer day. We pruned all the perennials. I grow a lot of lavender, so we pruned about 100 lavender plants. So that was a lot of fun, and it smells good too. So that's an added bonus. Another reason to join a CSA is because you get food that's harvested less than 24 hours. And particularly in the Mount Olive group, I'm harvesting with my staff the morning you pick it up. So we harvest in the morning, you pick it up at 2. It literally came out of the field. There are some things like potatoes and carrots and onions you harvest ahead of time, but most of the stuff is harvested within hours. So I've been told my lettuce lasts 2 weeks in people's refrigerator because, it's much fresher than the supermarket. I grow a lot of different varieties, heirloom varieties. People love the tomatoes, peppers. Everybody's got a favorite. I usually remember my CSA members because they tell me what their favorite vegetable is. So when I'm harvesting that vegetable, I think about them, and it's really motivating to me. And especially if it's children who love the purple carrots, I think about them, you know, and it's very meaningful to me and the staff. And in light of COVID, I was thinking about how little we handle the food. So there's no more than 3 people ever harvesting at the farm. And that means only, it could even be one hand has touched the food that you're getting. But if you purchase food from a supermarket, it will likely, and I'm talking about vegetables, likely have come from California, Mexico, or somewhere at least 3,000 miles away. So just think of the process. It's harvested in the field by many hands. It's processed, it's packaged, it's shipped, it's unboxed, it's handled by workers. People come into the store, everybody feels everything. More workers handle it. It's just like a whole thing. And I mean, I don't know if we have to be that concerned, you know, as we were at the beginning of COVID, but I do like the fact that very few people touch the food my members receive. So if you live in Mount Olive, it's very convenient, and our other locations are convenient in the towns they're in. But I'm pretty centrally located in Mount Olive, off of 46 and Sand Shore Road, so it's easy to get to. And if you join the CSA, you're supporting sustainable agriculture, which means that you are choosing how food is grown, where food is grown, what food is grown, how the grower is growing it. So every time you buy something, you're voting with your fork. So, and people think I don't have any impact, but I totally disagree, because your purchasing power impacts what's available. And so by buying from me, you're also encouraging more people to do what I do. Why certified organic? You know, people have lots of questions about it. I've been trying to teach people about it for probably 15 years. I would say the number one thing is avoiding chemicals. There are millions of insecticides, pesticides. That is not what we use. You know, being certified organic, you're given a list of what you can and cannot use. It has to be approved by these certifying bodies. So, you know, it's much more limited. But I personally choose to use very little intervention. So some of the things that I do are, I grow crops under cover, and that sounds interesting, right? So I literally will cover an entire bed of eggplants. Eggplants are highly susceptible to insects, but we dip our eggplants in clay. It's a very inert, it's kaolin, it's a white clay. So there's quite a few different things we dip in clay. So the clay protects the plant for a period of time. Obviously, it's going to get washed off eventually. We plant it in, you know, covered in clay, plant it, tent the beds with fabric, basically, so something like eggplants. By the time the eggplants grow and are ready to harvest, they start pushing the cover off. They get so tall. And then I lift it up and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I have lots of eggplant. It works so well, because I know if anybody has grown eggplants, they know what I'm talking about regarding the insects. It's really problematic. So that's one of the things we do. There's a product called Safer Soap. That's basically a very mild soap. That's also good for insects. There's a product, there's neem oil. So these are the things that we try to use. Somebody asked me once if I test my crops for Roundup. Well, there's been no Roundup, I believe, ever on this property, because the farmers who farmed it before used hybrids, not Roundup ready crops. So, and the half-life would not still be lingering after a decade. But, you know, that's a concern. And I had a neighbor who passed away from leukemia, and my last conversation with him was about how Roundup was killing farmers. So I'm not ever going to be using Roundup anywhere. So some people say organic tastes better. I agree. I don't know if that's true, or maybe just local tastes better or freshly harvested tastes better. You know, that's all, you know, kind of a matter of opinion. So I am not allowed to use GMO crops. And that's a whole discussion, which I won't get into offline. If somebody wants to talk to me about that, I will, but you know, it's kind of a complicated subject. But you know, so Roundup Ready corn is one of those things where, you know, you use Roundup, you kill everything, but the only thing that can grow is that corn, which is kind of scary. Not something I do. So organic preserves the ecosystem because we don't use all these chemicals, and they, you know, we don't allow things to run off into a waterway. So we're reducing pollution, protecting the water and the soil. And a hallmark of organic growing is soil, soil, soil. So I spent 10 years building my soil, and I do that by growing what we call cover crops or green manure. So things like clover or buckwheat or winter rye. You grow it, you cut it, you till it in. You don't harvest it. It's not inexpensive, but it adds a lot of nutrients to your soil. And one of my farming neighbors, his compliment was, "Your soil's so dark," which was a really big compliment to me, because when I came there, my soil was not dark. And you know, you have to invest in your soil. Soil is your biggest investment in growing food, because farming actually, you know, depletes soil. So if you don't keep on rebuilding it, and you have to like outpace the damage. So you have to keep on building, building, building. And we do that by the green manures, heavy hay mulching, incorporating our crop residue back in. So everything gets tilled in. And I mean, this is probably hard for people to understand, but now when I drive my tractor over these areas, I feel like I'm rolling on a cloud. It's a very different feeling. You know, when it was a much heavy clay situation, it was like rolling on cement. But now it's like, the tractor kind of bounces along. So, I mean, you can feel it, you know, you can feel it when you touch it, you can feel it when you ride over it. And I mean, we were doing some bed shaping today, and you can feel it when you're operating and making a bed, because it's fluffy and tilthy and really lovely. So I'm kind of bouncing back between information and the CSA. So the CSA pickup in Mount Olive is Fridays from 2 to 6. Anyone who can't make those hours, we accommodate them. And if people choose not to pick up their share, it's donated to a local food pantry. So we've been donating food since we started, up to 10,000 pounds a year, from the Trinity in Hackettstown, Mount Olive Food Pantry, Long Valley, Plainfield Soup Kitchen, Secaucus Social Services, Secaucus Elementary Schools. I mean, it's a long list. And I try to make it pretty structured. So there's like pickups 1 or 2 days a week at the farm, and then they go to the pantry. It's not that easy to donate, I'll tell you that. So you have to kind of set up a system with the pantry and hope that, you know, it all works out. So far, so good. So back to the program. It's 16 weeks. A half share is $5.80, which is about $36 a week. That's usually good for a single person or a couple. A full share is $9.80. That's about $61 a week. So that's excellent for a family of 4, and that offers a better value because it's you get double the amount of the half share, but not double the price. I've had single people buy full shares because they were vegans eating vegetables 3 times a day. So, I mean, it's all about deciding how much vegetables you want in your diet. You want to change your diet, you know, how many times you cook, how many times you eat out. Some people eat all their food raw. You know, people make different choices. And it's interesting to hear how people use their share. I had people that use every part of everything they get. They know how to take every part. If there's a flower on the basil, it's in their salad. They use, and I'm amazed at what people do. So we hope to get payments by April 15th, but obviously they roll in after that as well. And if anybody has a financial situation, I do offer a payment plan because I really do want everyone to have access to this food. Whoops. So what comes in your share? We grow over 200 varieties of vegetables, fruit, herbs, and flowers. So in any given week, you get 10 to 18 items, and everything is grown on our property from seed to harvest. And I like to say that sometimes people don't know what I mean. We do not buy from other farms. We do not buy from distributors. Everything is from our property. Our CSA members can visit. They can visit their food. They can walk around and like, that'll be in my share next week, or that'll be in my share in 2 weeks. So it's really nice to have that level of transparency, and it makes people feel very comfortable. And I was just going to read, I couldn't put up this list for some reason because I'm not that savvy about downloading things. But so last year, our first share contained radishes, salad turnips, broccoli, 2 different types of lettuce, 2 different types of kale, scallions, sage, oregano, and garlic scapes. Garlic scapes are the flower of the garlic, which is a really delicious part of the garlic. And then I'll just read the 16th week share. You'll see how things kind of ramp up. So by week 16, everyone was receiving garlic, kale, tomatillos, collards, 3 different winter squashes, delicata, carnival, butternut, purple scallions, assorted lettuce, kohlrabi, broccoli, cauliflower, potatoes, bell peppers, escamillo peppers, which is a sweet pepper, carmine peppers, a sweet pepper, 2 hot peppers, jalafuego and habanero, and a bunch of carrots. So, you know, you get what we can grow during season, and it definitely ramps up. You know, so you start out with 10 to 11 items, and then you're getting sometimes 18 or more, because, you know, there's a bountiful part of the season in New Jersey, and that's what we provide. But there's always plenty of food. I've never had somebody say there's not enough food. They usually say the opposite. But, you know, if people have extra, I always encourage them to freeze it, can it, dry it. I eat my food all winter long. It's really nice. I think there's not a day that I don't eat something from my farm, whether it's garlic or potatoes or, you know, something I've frozen. Like I had peppers yesterday and tomatoes, and really love being able to do that. And I just threw this slide in earlier today. We do grow organic plants for your garden. So a lot of our CSA members have a share and a garden. I always encourage everyone to grow something, whether it's an herb or 1 tomato plant on your patio. It's just really great to be able to like go out your door and grab a tomato or cut some herbs, you know, buy a couple of herb plants and have super fresh herbs. So this year we have many heirlooms and rare varieties. I'm working with a former apprentice, Rita. Rita's doing the rare varieties and I'm doing the other stuff. So we're going to have actually quite a different plant sale this year. We have many plants, and what we did last year was pre-order, prepay, and curbside pickup because of COVID. And we may continue that because, you know, I'm not sure what's going on COVID-wise. I'm fully vaccinated, but, you know, I think it's better safe than sorry. So I still have to figure out exactly what we're doing, but I think we might continue that same process. And if you'd like to sign up, you can just go to schoollunchfarm.com for the CSA. And you can also join our blog, getting a little better about posting stuff from the blog. I always forget I have a blog. So I have a lot of people helping me this year with social media. So feel free to join the blog. If you'd like to join the CSA, that would be wonderful. And now it's time for questions. Anybody have questions for me? Or Andy or Irene, are you going to read them?
Can you just go back to your blog slide?
Sure.
Thanks.
It's the website. So if you go to the website, you'll find a place to sign up for the blog. And we do have
I
like,
have a question. You can unmute yourself, Gail. How are you tonight?
Hi, this is Gail. Can I ask a question, Margaret?
sure.
Thank you so much for speaking with us. I fear I cannot do any farming, even though I have the property, because I have a whole family of deer.
I'm familiar with them.
So I depend on you guys. My question is, I talk to a lot of the local farmers because I try to always support Mount Olive and Hackettstown farmers, because not only the quality of their food, but because they are so important to our environment. So my question is, how has climate change impacted your farming methods and your selection? I know one year I went to get asparagus, and because of some early rains, there was limited asparagus. Or at Best Farms, they had no peaches last year because of a frost that came. And we know a lot of this is related to climate change. So I was wondering if you have anything to share with us about how you may see or not see impacts to your farm due to climate change.
Well, climate change is, it's just not about heating up. It's also about erratic weather. So I look at weather as windows of opportunity. So that's like why I'm rushing to prepare my beds. I hear rumors about a drought, so I try to like jump on opportunities. So the long-term effects, there's so many factors. Climate change is a huge thing. It will change the way we farm. New Jersey may be the most ideal state to grow in at some point because the zones are shifting. So we're all getting warmer. And, places like Florida may, if they get hotter and hotter and hotter, people won't be able to grow there. So growing will shift north. I don't know over what time, but land in New Jersey may become very valuable for farming. Not that it isn't now, but it's a limited resource. And I'd say we also need to support preserving more farms, because people, I heard that Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos own 2% of the land mass in the US. They're buying up farmland. So that tells you something right there. And, I'm not that fond of growing in warehouses, but I know that might be a necessity. People are already doing it. The thing about, if you grow one crop, say you only have apples and there's a freeze or there's something, there's a blight, you're done. You know what I mean? So I think you have to be diverse. I grow many different things. And if one thing fails, it doesn't really affect my customers because I grow so many different things. Biodiversity is really key, because if you go to a supermarket, most of what you're seeing are very few varieties. It has changed over the years. You do see more, but if that corn seed that they use, develops a problem, whether it's because of climate change or something else, then, you have to go back to these older varieties. And people used to save their own seed. All the farmers save their own seed. People don't do that as much. I save some seed, but that's like a whole other job, to save seed. And I'm not sure if I'm really answering your question, but some of the things that I'm seeing because of climate change are very bizarre insects that are like from other countries, and they're also shifting north. So southern insects. I mean, I saw something when I was training at another farm. I'm like, what is this bug? I forgot what you had. So there's tomato hornworms. I think it was a sweet potato hornworm, which was not really a New Jersey insect. It was really a southern insect. So it's the shifting of these insects, and we don't know what to do with them or how to handle them. So that, like everybody knows the spotted lanternfly. I mean, at the farm last year, every time we sat down to lunch, the spotted lanternflies were on my knee, my shoulder. And I was just like, and I don't know what they're gonna do. Like nobody knows, because last year they were just reporting where they were, but there was no action. So climate changes so many things, and pests are part of that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm sorry. I could go on and on,
No, that was good. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Anybody else? Margaret, that was the best explanation of impact of climate change I've ever heard. I mean, very, very comprehensive, very local, very.
It's the tip of the iceberg. I hate to say.
Heidi,
I mean, I've been going to
if you
farm.
take off your mic, you can talk.
I did. I was just waiting.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I mean, a decade ago at farming conferences, people were coming up with, even on, depending on the size of your property, you have microclimates, and it was all about like looking to the future of what climate change, how we're going to grow with climate change. I mean, like the way that I have my field set up, there's very little erosion. So, I mean, I literally have been harvested standing in 4 inches of rain. Like you want an inch of rain a week for your farm or growing or homeowners, you get 4 inches in like 1 hour, it just rolls off. It rolls into the road. You know what I mean? So it's these weird things, so it's like, again, I call it like weather opportunities. I am so, like literally, I wanted to stay at the farm all night until sundown because we were doing something, and I have a weather opportunity right now, and hopefully the weather will be good tomorrow because I need to accomplish something. The soil is all about, how dry or wet it is, and people don't know, like I am like on top of this soil condition like daily. Is it dry enough yet? Is it too wet? And you can't plow when it's wet or dry. So, it's so you have to be flexible.
Heidi, did you have something? Did you want to jump in there?
I actually have a couple questions, and I just wanted to, Margaret, just share that I
Sure.
wrote in the chat when you get a chance to see it. You're absolutely inspiring.
Thank you.
And thank you for that so much. I'm a gardener at heart, and I will not call myself a farmer because I don't have a farm. I'm a gardener. But I have a super large garden, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to have another one being built, and I have chickens on my property. So, my spirit is with yours, but not at the same level at all. So just thank you for this tonight, for your information, and for sharing everything with us, and just for loving what you do, because it comes through. So I wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then two, I do actually have a couple growing questions for you. One is rhubarb, which is my challenge.
Hmm.
It's something that I learned to love from my grandmother, and it's just something I want to get better at, but I'm not always sure how to prevent it. Last year it really bolted, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen this year.
Uh-huh.
So I guess it's a preventative question that I have for you. What can I do? What do I need to know? And then my second question for you is potatoes. I'm doing them in potato bags because I just don't have the space in my garden. So
Right.
I want to get your advice on when is a really good time to go ahead and get those started.
You could probably get the potatoes started now,
What I thought.
because as long as it stays pretty warm. Yeah, you can start potatoes pretty early.
Okay.
So I'm actually doing sweet potatoes in bags this year because I have a vole problem and I stopped growing sweet potatoes because of voles. I'd be like, oh my gosh, look at that big sweet potato. Flip it over, hollow.
Yeah.
They ate the entire inside. I mean, I would harvest all these sweet potatoes and I could not give any of them out because they were too chewed up. So with regard to rhubarb, I actually have grown some. I am not an expert on rhubarb. I have a neighbor, Walt Allers, who grows and sells rhubarb.
Mhm.
So I don't know if he wants visitors, but
Is your other neighbor Teddy?
I don't know that name.
Okay, then I think she lives on the other side of you.
Okay.
But I was gonna make a connection there and see if I could ask. And I appreciate the honesty about the rhubarb. It's just one of those things that I just have to keep on researching.
Yeah, it's a perennial, so it should grow in, not ideal conditions. You could also mulch it with wood chips. I mean, everything I grow, you don't want to put wood in your farm field. People say, why don't you use wood chips? It's like, that's the worst thing. It takes the nitrogen. But for perennials, wood chips are okay. But you also do have to, I don't know if it's separate or like move them every couple of years.
Okay.
So I worked at a farm and we would move the rhubarb every couple of years.
All right.
But again, I grew it from seed. My neighbor actually gave me seed because he had his varieties were over 100 years old on his property. He brought me, and I don't even know if they're viable, but I have like enormous bags of rhubarb seed, which is like, rhubarb plants get really big, and how many plants do you want to grow?
Yeah.
He's got hundreds, and he puts a sign up every, whenever rhubarb season is. I don't know when it is exactly, and it's for sale. So it's down Stevens State Park Road on the left.
Okay.
So if you drive around there, Walt Allers, rhubarb.
I'll find him.
Yeah,
Thank you
he's a
so
nice
much.
guy. Any other questions?
I have a question, if I could. I was just
Sure.
wondering, besides the CSA, do you also have a farm store where you can come in and buy things, or it's just through the CSA?
Yeah, it's just the CSA. I do wholesale in the CSA.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes I've had like one-off farm markets at the farm, but this has worked best for me. I mean, I am very focused on growing. So the CSA, gives me the ability to spend more time growing. And that's my preference. So
Gotcha.
thanks for asking.
Okay.
Anybody else on any related topic? Heidi, I'm glad you asked about your own personal gardening.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind, but I figured I want to ask, and if anybody here has any advice for me, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I Google things a lot. There's so much information on the web. And yeah, I mean, mulching, I think, is good for rhubarb.
Yeah, it comes back, and so I
Yeah.
haven't heard it. It just last year that bolting was like, what happened? So
Yeah, that's kind of surprising, but it could have been, again, weather related.
that's exactly what I was just going to say to you, because I heard everything that you said about weather, and I just wanted to jump on that same bandwagon. And I've noticed that just even in my yard, how my yard has shifted with the water running, the runoff, just those our weather pattern here, I think, is just so different. The winds that we're having lately, I think, are much more intense. So all of that is affecting everything that we're doing in our gardens and our growing and our
Right. Wind is very drying. Okay. So if you plant on a windy day, you can damage your plants.
Yep.
So yeah, the wind is, I literally last week started looking at wind reports because it's been a little crazy. and when we're doing certain tasks at the farm, they are not wind tolerant activities. so I can't do certain things. Yeah, so, and the farm is kind of at the top of the hill. So it is a bit of a microclimate. So it's kind of like knowing your weather on your property,
Mhm.
and it may not be the same as, somebody downhill,
And honestly, I'm not far from you. So I'm off of Sandshore up on Ridge Road at the
Okay.
very top.
Okay,
I completely, and again, I'm sharing that for other people here too. Like it really does matter, I think, where we are. There's these strange weather patterns that we have that definitely affects what we grow.
oh yeah, there's definitely like, in the state, there's like literally lines, like, so I used to live in Union County, which is like due west of Manhattan and Long Island. And literally storms would go like right across, like,
Yeah.
hurricane, whatever, tornado. Yeah, I mean, and people come to the farm to pick up their shares and they don't all live locally. And it is, it's a deluge in Randolph, and there's no farm for 4 weeks no water, rain at the farm for 4 weeks, but every Friday it's raining in Randolph. I'm like, can you please bring some this way,
Okay, well, thank you so much. We see the website. This is where to get all the CSA, whether you're buying a half share or a full share or multiple shares. This is where to get it. And Margaret, thank you so much. I feel like I've gotten a 2-credit course tonight. Very informative. And
Thank you.
the only thing better than the information were your beautiful photographs. And I especially like the colorful language, especially voting with a fork and rolling your tractor on a cloud of soil. So I love when people use colorful language. That was wonderful.
I was thinking that I was going to try to be like Amanda Gorman tonight, but I
Wow.
she's
Wow.
like such a wordsmith,
Wow.
Next
Well,
time it'll all be in poetry.
well, if you missed anything, please, Irene will post this up on our website. You'll see the
Yes.
video shortly.
Mhm.
We also hope to have some events up at Margaret's farm, so hopefully we'll be able to work out something in person and be able to help out a little bit and enjoy Margaret's company and beautiful, beautiful grounds.
That would be great.
Upcoming event, we as an organization host a food drive every month. We do have a food drive this Saturday at Turkey Brook Park between 10 and 12. So if you have any donations of non-perishable food or personal care items, feel free to bring them on up to us. We usually set up in the back of Turkey Brook right before you get to the doggy park. And we have a monthly cleanup event also. This month will be on April 24th. At 1 o'clock, we'll be tackling the first part of the White Trail right on Old Bud Lake Road there behind Adam's Bagels and Breakfast. I mean, pancake shop. And so that's it. Margaret, thank you so very much. This was wonderful. And we'll see you out there. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Nice
for
meeting everyone.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Happy growing and eating season.
Yes, yes. This made me hungry.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night. All right, bye-bye.
Good night.